Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and welcome to Muslims in America, where we interview Muslim elected officials and influencers to find out about their political and community engagement. You ever ask yourself, what can I do to help in my local community? You want to be here and listen to them. Before we meet our next guest, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel and hit the reminder bell so you receive notification of future episodes. Please don't forget to hit the like button on this episode as well. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My guest is the Honorable Councilman Pious Ali from Portland, Maine. I had the honor of seeing him online and connecting with him, and he has an amazing story that inspired me, and I just had to share it with you. So I contacted him. I said, Councilman, we need you. We need to hear your story because it's truly an inspiration. So welcome, Councilman. Let me just read your bio, then give you the time to share some of your wisdom with us. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Councilman Pious Ali, who's a dedicated public servant, assertive and pragmatic leader with compassionate, diversified skill set in community organizing, activism, and civic engagement. Pious is a youth and community engagement specialist at the University of Southern Maine's Muskie School of Public Services, Portland, empowered, and has spent the better part of his career focused on community engagement. He has created a meaningful and ongoing dialogue across cultural, ethnic, socioeconomic, and faith-based barriers. Prior to joining the Muskie School, Pious worked with the City of Portland's refugee services and spent many summers working as a facilitator for Seeds of Peace, a summer program that builds relationships and leadership skills among youth from regions of conflict. He also worked as a site coordinator of the Peer Leader Program at what is now the Opportunity Alliance in Portland, Maine, and as an education and community engagement coordinator at the Portland branch of the NAACP. Mr. Ali is the first African-born Muslim American to be elected to a public office in Maine, becoming a member of the city's elected Board of Public Education in 2013 and the city's council in 2016. He also founded erstwhile Maine Interfaith Youth Alliance and co-founded the King Fellows, a Portland-based youth group dedicated to creating meaningful opportunities for youth through leadership and civic engagement based on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and recently launched the Civic and Community Engagement Fellowship at Muskie School of Public Service. Mr. Ali is an alumnus of the Institute for Civic Leadership, known as Lift 360, and in 2015 he was named Lift 360's most distinguished alumnus and a Seeds of Peace 2017-18 Gather Fellow. A native of Ghana, Pious worked as a photojournalist for a range of print publications. He migrated to the United States of America, first to New York City, and has called Maine his home since 2002, where he lives with his two kids. He graduated from the honors program and also received an undergraduate leadership award from the School of Diplomacy and International Relationships at graduation. Councilman, you have an amazing immigration story. I recently saw a post on Facebook where you mentioned the 20-year opportunity. You spoke about different stages of your life. In my private discussion with you, this has to do with your immigration story. Can you share it with us? Because I'm an immigrant myself. and I have my own story, and I just found yours to be very inspirational.
Thank you. So I am from Ghana, and back in Ghana, I did work with the media, taking pictures for a lot of print media. And then in 2000, I decided to migrate. And so I do here once in a while, I do presentation to young people. And if they say, why did you left Ghana? I said to them that I photograph everyone from the everyday person to the president, and I was looking for more people to photograph. So I came to New York, where I think there are a lot of people for me to photograph. I migrated to the US in 2000. And then 2 years later, I moved to Maine. I came to visit Maine a couple of times, and I really like it. I have a friend who we grew up together who live here. So came to visit him a couple of times, and I like here. When I moved to Maine in 2000, I had a job working in restaurants. I did all sorts of jobs. And then I had this job that was a job working with young people, most of whom are immigrants who live in housing neighborhoods. Like we know in a lot of cities or in a lot of communities all over this country, immigrants tend to congregate. Not all, but most of us tend to congregate in the same community. And so I have an after-school program where I work with young people who live in these neighborhoods. And that job was what led to me getting involved in my community, both in the larger immigrant community and then specifically with the Muslim community. There are not that many Ghanaians here, but there are Muslims here. And wherever we go, I think our Muslim identity is ahead of everything else. So I get connected with the Muslim community, and I became part of a member of the community. I'm already involved in the larger community because of what I do for work. So I created an interfaith youth group where I bring our own kids in the Muslim community and kids in other communities to bring them together, to understand each other so that we can coexist. We all know that after September 11, we are the ones that everyone is looking at. And in my belief, in my opinion, in order for our kids to live in a community, in a society where people don't look at them in a weird way, or people don't look at them in suspicious, other people need to understand who we are. Other people need to know who our community are. So that was one way that I work with young people in the community and get the community involved. I will bring a lot of young people in our community to soup kitchens to go and serve. We will look for a retirement home and go and sit down with the old people and have a conversation with them. Most of the kids are immigrants. Some of them were born here. So we will meet with these older people at the retirement home, and we will talk to them, tell them stories, and they will share stories with us. I think that is what gave me a work root in a community that I didn't grow up in a community that I adopted as part of my immigrant story. In 2013, someone that I used to work with reached out to me and said, hey, there is an opportunity to run for school board. I think you should. And I said, I'm not interested in running in politics. And she said, well, everything that you've been doing, when you go to the schools to advocate for the kids, when you were volunteering at the incarceration, at the youth detention center, everything that you're doing is politics. You organize rallies in the community, it's all politics. Long story short, I went on and took the papers and put my name on the ballot, and I got elected. There were 2 seats, and there were 6 of us running. I grabbed one of the seats. What is interesting about my campaign was that young people, both in our community and the larger towns around us, will also come to me and say, hey, they will send me a message on my social media and say, hey, we want to come and volunteer for your campaign. And that led not to just running for office, but also it got these kids who are mostly white kids who reach out to me to get to work together with kids in our community, most of whom are Muslims.
Perfect. So that's a great story, and it emphasizes the point that, number one, politics, as you said, is all around us, and everything we do is connected to politics. I learned that politics is the art of who gets what, when, and how. And what that means is you're paying your taxes and elected officials are deciding how your money is being spent. So you're feeding into that system. Might as well get involved in it. The other thing is the fact that were a community volunteer. You did a lot of volunteering, and then someone said, "Why don't you run?" Which happened to me as well, and I was still not a U.S. citizen, but it planted a seed in my head. You know, I always emphasize to people, get involved, not for the sake of getting involved in politics, but people are always looking for good people to represent them. And if it's the right time and it's the right place and the right combination, you might get pushed into politics and you affect things on a different level. So can you speak more to that? That community engagement doesn't always mean politics, but it might lead to politics.
Absolutely. And as this person pointed out to me, whatever we do, as you said, the way our neighborhoods are clean or sweep, the way snow is removed, how much is spent on the light, on the schools that our kids go to, it's all politics. And whether you participate or not, someone is going to make that decision. Apart from elected office, there are many other things that you can do in addition to being involved in your own community. Mayor, you know this more than I do, that mayors and to some extent councillors in some different jurisdictions do appoint people or sponsor people to be nominated by the mayor to serve on committees. It could be a committee about a park or public art. And if we don't get involved in public art, I'm just using that as an example, someone else will. And then we will live in communities for 100 years. We will not see the art that represent us, that represent our families, that represent our history in the collection of the public art. But if we get involved and we know in our community, there are people who are calligraphers. There are people who know to sculpt things. If we get someone, or if we get involved and one of us got in there, then the person will recommend art that reflects our community to be part of the public art collection. If your kids pass in a space that have art, that they can look and see themselves in that art, whether it is by writing, whether it is any type of thing, that is, it helps our kids grow grounded, knowing that they belong here. We are part of the fabric of what makes our community, our cities, state, and the country, and we should embrace it. Politics, I understand, is not for everyone, being elected office, but there are many aspects of it, including going to city council meeting and speaking up and say that, no, I don't want that park in my neighborhood, or no, we need to put that park there because our kids will play. Our kids will go there so that our kids don't have to travel from one part of the city to the other just to be at a park. So many aspects of that, if we get involved, that is good. And also our dean have said that helping people in even where you live, people who need your help is a form of sadaqah. And there are many ways that we can do that in our communities without being directly into politics.
Okay. So great. I interviewed at least 2 Muslim elected officials who were children, not that they're children now, but they were sons of immigrants. But you're the first I'm interviewing who's an actual immigrant. Tell us about the transition. 20 years, that's a fairly quick time. What challenges? And let me add to this. I love the positive energy that you project through your social media. I honestly thought you were born here until I spoke to you, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah. So how did you adapt so quick? And talk to immigrants who are afraid of running to office. I know Ghana has a democracy, but there's a lot of us. I come from Syria. There's absolutely no democracy. My father would have never been dreamt of being an elected official, or for me to be an elected official. Talk to us about that transition. Talk to the immigrants who want to get involved on what could possibly be a challenge and what are the rewards.
So I think what we in our community, immigrants of any kind, what we are afraid of sometimes, there are so many things. We have people saying that, well, this is not my home. I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to go home. I don't want to get involved. If we look in our communities, I think out of 10 immigrants, hardly will use it two. Maybe one person will go back home. The rest of us are here. This is home. It may be our second home or our other home, but this is home. So we need to get involved. Yes, it is difficult, but politics at the municipal, at the local level, it is nothing. It is similar like when you are standing at the bus stop and you are having a conversation about your children's education, about your neighborhood. That is all we do. Yes, there's some policy that you have to deal with, but with a little bit, we are all, if you have come to this country, it doesn't matter how you get here and you live here and you wake up in the morning to go to work and come back home and live, you can do it. Yes, it is easy for me to say that, but there might be some learning, but I think we have more courage than we thought. When that woman said to me, you should run for office, my heart almost get out of my chest. The moment I started campaigning and seeing the way people talk to me, the response that I got, it was beyond what I expected. And that was for the school board. If I say there was no challenges, I'm lying. In 2016, when I was running, it was at the same time that the politics in this country went south. We have the current president running at the same time. And I had a lot of people who would slam the door at me and say, we don't want to talk to you. It didn't deter me from going to the next house. Or I would say, why don't you talk to me? I know that is not easy, but there are people like just the way we are. If you bring a conversation forward, people will respond. But what is more interesting is that for every one person who slammed the door at me and say, I don't want to talk to me, I don't want to talk to you, down the same line, the same road, the same neighborhood, there is about 5 or 6 more that are happy that I'm running, that will say to you that thank you for serving in your community. If there's one thing that I know about this country is that they appreciate people who give up their time to serve, whether you are being compensated for your service or not. So far as you serve to do something that benefits someone else during that campaign, people will show appreciation. They will talk to you. People will reach out to you and say, listen, we will support you. What do you need? So yeah, there are challenges, but I'm sure that as I have seen, here you are, Mayor, here I am, and there are countless others all over this country at school board level, city council, county commissioners, and then now we have some of our people, some of our peers, Muslims and immigrants in Congress, and there are more running. So let's get involved in our community. Let's shape the policies that determines who does what and how it is done. That is the only way that will embrace what this country has.
Absolutely. So I want to put 2 questions in one. You're the first Muslim elected official in the state of Maine.
Yes.
There are now 5 others, I understand.
Yeah.
But you're and that's in 7 years. And you also mentioned the challenges within the elections 2016, so on and so forth. We know America has a racial problem, whether people want to admit it or not. Speak about these challenges. You know, what kind of challenges do you still go through, whether on a personal level, political level, and the fact that you inspired others that to get involved regardless of these challenges, and what these 5 more will inspire, you know?
Yeah, so some of the challenges are overtly and covertly, and some are direct. I will give you an example. When I got elected to the school board, and that was 2013, there is a lot of there's this person who sent email to every elected person that this guy is bringing Sharia. During my 2016 campaign, I was at a radio station to be interviewed. And each person that called is a conservative radio. Everyone said to me, don't go. And I said, if I don't go to this radio station, they're not going to open their door to talk to me. I went to this station. During the interview, half of the people that called, they didn't ask me any question about policy. All they talk about is, are you going to bring Sharia here? All sort of derogatory things about my faith. And I didn't let that deter me. Just 2 days ago, one of the young Muslim elected officials in another town was on the Zoom call. When someone got into the Zoom call, she was on their town's finance committee was meeting. Someone got into the call, and they didn't just got into the call. They went into the call to call her. She's a young Muslim woman, to call her all sort of derogatory names. She posted it on social media, and there was a lot of support. Right. You're right, we have 5 Muslims, and then we have about 12 immigrants. So 5 of the 12 immigrants are Muslims, the rest are not. And initially, when I ran, there was a lot of people that said that, well, why are you doing this? You just have to stay there and do your job. And so I got a letter to the school board, and they're all like, oh my goodness, this is cool. And in 2016, when I ran, after I did run, I think with everything that is going on nationally, people realize that leaving this guy to be fighting this fight alone is not okay. And also, if we as a community, immigrants, Muslims, do not sit at the table, as that American saying go, if you are not at the table, you are on the plate or on the menu. Right. So we need to how do we call it, get involved and be part of the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, Councilman, I want to thank you for your time, but before we depart, just a few quick questions. Number one, what words of wisdom can you share with anybody who is thinking about getting involved?
I think no involvement is small. You can start by going to your child's school if you have kids, to volunteer, even if it is to pick up books from a desk and put it into the drawer. One, your child will see that their parents and the kids who know your kids or kids who look like you will be happy that someone who look like them is in the classroom. Part of the work that I did when I started working is going to classroom and just tell my story to kids. There was a day that a parent was driving, an immigrant parent, and they stopped their car and said that, thank you very much for going to my child's classroom. She said he came home happier than any day since he's been to school. And he said, the moment I asked him what happened, he said, he said, he didn't remember your name. She said, he didn't remember your name. Mm-hmm. I have dreadlocks. Now I have a bald head.
I do too, man. That's fine.
So she said, when he described the person who came to his class and mentioned that the person is from Ghana, I knew it was you. So thank you. That is very important. Let's get involved. Even if it is to go to the sports where our kids play, just start on the sideline and cheer for your kids and other kids that look like your kids. That is a good way to start it. There is this is a Muslim comedian, Hassan Minhaj.
Yeah.
Something that he says that I tell people in my community, that when you come to America, you don't get to embrace only the good kind, the job and the money. You also have to embrace the inside of our country, because we are Americans now. So we have to embrace every aspect of what this country have to offer, from the job that pays a lot of money to the serving the communities that we live in.
Right. You got to be all in.
Yeah.
Councilman, for those who are in Maine, what is the political system like? So here we have Democrat, Republican, parties are very strong. You get the party line, you pretty much win. You don't get the party line, you got an uphill battle. What is it like for someone to get engaged in the political system in Maine?
So at school board and city level, in most of our cities, there are some towns that have like the party system. In my city, Portland, which is the largest city, for school board and city council, you don't run as a on party line. You just run as an individual, and people will support you based on the values that you are bringing to the table and based on the work that you've done in the community, which includes what everything that I've said earlier. For the mayor of my town, you have it is non-partisan, but you nobody asks you, are you a Democrat or are you Republican? You just sign up and then you run. But for state legislature, you have to be part of a party. You run on party tickets. So yeah, municipal level is non-partisan, but we have the same thing. We have Democrats and Republicans here, mostly for state legislature. That is where the convertedness is. We have some towns that there are more, even though they don't run on party line. Some towns have a Republican mayor, some towns have a Democratic mayor. The news will say the person is a registered, but they didn't run based on their political, their political affiliation. It is non-partisan.
Awesome. All right. What question did I not ask you? What should I have asked you, and you would like to share with the audience?
I love to cook. We didn't talk about that. I still cook my Ghanaian food, and I try other dishes. If I happen to come to New Jersey, anybody that will invite me to eat, I love to eat. So I love to be invited to eat. So after COVID,
absolutely. All right, now your chance. Is there a question that you would like to ask me?
Well, I think I will thank you for doing this, because I think our voices need to be heard, and we need to share our stories so that other young people and older people will learn from us. I will ask you, because you've asked me, what motivated you to run?
You know, I think my story is very similar to you, and that's what attracted me to your story, is because I think there is something in community engagement. So I came to the United States a little longer than you, 29 years ago.
Right.
I wanted to be engaged in my community. I was a teenager, and so I became a volunteer in the local hospital. I became a volunteer fireman, and like I shared with you earlier, actually one member of the fire department at one point said, "Why don't you run for office?" And I said, "I'm not a US citizen yet." So lo and behold, a few years later, I become a US citizen in April of 2000, and I declared my candidacy in April of 2001. So it was one thing leading to another.
Yeah.
And now, you know, it's having no contact, being a new immigrant, all the way to, you know, going to political events, being the mayor, having the governor of the state come to swear me in to my fourth term. So, and so when I started, there were a few Muslim elected officials in the state of New Jersey. To count them by hand. Now there are over 30 Muslim elected officials, with about 5 to 10 running for office this year.
Well, that's good. Thank you for being you've paved the way for other people. I know one of those people. I think that is how I also find you.
Yeah.
Ali Musab,
Yeah.
busy young man. He told me you were the one that I think you saw in one of his.
I did wear him in. He's a true inspiration as well himself. He's achieved being elected the first Muslim to be elected to the second largest city in the state.
Yeah.
He did it at such a young age. I think he was 18 or 19 and was still in college.
Yeah.
So he did an amazing job, and he's a Rhodes Scholar. He's amazing. I'm bringing him on one day, hopefully, to interview him as well. He's on my list.
That would be good.
Awesome. Well, Councilman, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your story and knowledge with us. Wish you tremendous success. Don't hesitate to reach out to me should I be able to help you with anything. And I'll make sure that if I'm ever in Maine, that I visit you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for having me.
So did Councilman Pious' story inspire you? Do you have any questions for me or for the councilman? Please make sure that you list your questions in the comments below so we could answer it and respond to you. You could also contact us on social media. Do you have a suggestion of a guest that I should host? Please list that guest below as well. I would love to host more Muslim elected officials from throughout the United States. Last but not least, please make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the reminder bell so you could get notification of future episodes. Also, don't forget to hit the like on this episode. Until we see each other again, be safe, be blessed, and be active.